Rated mature audiences only. Viewer discretion is advised. Savaged, unfiltered.
All right, guys, welcome to Savage Unfiltered. Today is a very special bonus episode. We call this episode Savage Brief, guys. These episodes are short little episodes. We get into, some of the most heated and trending topics that's facing this country. Stories, headlines, just about everything, guys, you can hear on Savage Brief. Today, me and Sas are going to talk about, just what's going on with the whole Brian Seltzer, CNN, and why they decided to fire the anchor of reliable sources. Sas, let's dig into this, man. What do you think went wrong with Brian Seltzer? A lot of criticism is saying that he was a little too far leftist and too much of an extremist.
You mean too far? He hated him. He was full-blown communist. I mean, there's no such thing as too far. If anybody on CNN, I just want to tell you, anyone on CNN is like way far. They're anti-American. I call it the Communist News Network because they despise this country. I mean, and now they're finally realizing that, oh, I guess we got to get rid of some people because our viewership dropped and that we're averaging about 500,000 people hourly or something like that, or even like our nightly news and stuff, we're averaging 500,000 viewers. Well, we gotta make some budget cuts, and so why don't we just cut Brian Seltzer and stuff? I mean,
Yeah.
And plus, I think the reason why they ate him and stuff or fired him was because I think he was eating too many Twinkies before he got on the show. So I think they were going through the Twinkie supplies.
The Twinkies, yeah, I heard that. I heard that story. But a lot of people are going back to the most recent episode that he had on the show with the author, right, Michael Wolff. Michael Wolff,
Yes.
guys, if you paid attention to an episode a couple episodes back with myself, Soslin, and Joseph M. Leonard, we were discussing the entire segment, a little segment that Brian Seltzer had, Michael Wolff on. And Michael Wolff, guys, let me remind the listeners here. Michael Wolff is not a big fan of conservatism. He's not a Republican. Mike of an independent type of Democrat. He is a liberal. He does consider himself a liberal. But this is a man, like I said, that does not favor conservatism. He is calling out Brian Seltzer on his own show, saying, maybe your ratings are dropping because maybe you need to shut up and listen a little bit more. And then,
Yes.
after he's saying that, Sauce, Brian Steltzer's like, he's doing his little, infamous little, smile, the goofy looking, scare smile. I mean, that smile would scare a 5-year-old child, if you ask me. I mean, yeah. Yeah. I mean, what's your thoughts on Brian Seltzer leaving and departing CNN?
I think it's great. And my whole thing is, what more does CNN need? How many more firing does CNN need to finally wake up and realize, okay, maybe we've gone too far and we reached a certain group of society that is full-blown communist. Maybe we gotta hone back on it and keep those people behind the closet, and let's kind of get more moderate Democrats and more moderate, somewhat rhinos onto our show and viewers if we want to save this network before collapsing. That's what I think.
Well, do you think that this termination of Steltzer could lead to other terminations with other networks such as The View and other far left talk shows?
Oh, absolutely. Look at Whoopi Goldberg. She's hanging by the bridge of her seat on The View because ABC is about to fire her, and the only reason why ABC won't fire her from The View is because Whoopi Goldberg, when she was suspended for 2 weeks because of her really on an atrocious statement about the Jewish community. They suspended her, and she pulled out the race card, and that's what's holding back ABC from firing her. So if they're gonna, and she's on the verge of her seat because they're losing viewership as
Well,
well.
yeah. Whoopi's using the race card to basically save her position and role there
Bingo.
as a co-host. Yeah. Whenever you use that now, especially in society today, I had the opportunity to talk to, Mr. Healy today, just, about 20, 30 minutes prior to this broadcast that Sas and I are doing. Healy said the same thing, Noah Healy. He says, you're going to see, scenarios get played out, especially in today's society. Cap off of that, I had just yesterday, Branch Isole, which is a author of 22 books, and he specializes not only in politics, but he specializes in the 7 steps of relationship goals. Into politics yesterday too, and he said, I think today's society that we're seeing right now is basically playing a huge part of what we're experiencing. We're seeing a lot of hate. We're seeing a lot of this. We labeled yesterday's show, Sauce, a digitalized a form of a culture. Where this digitalized form is literally taking over our mindsets. Right? You can go back to the 50s, man, and you can see like a tremendous difference. People sat at the dinner table. They were more, englued with themselves as a family or a unit. They didn't have cell phones then. They weren't on their freaking, fucking Facebook 24 hours a day. They actually loved one another and they wanted to be around one another. And we got into that into great detail yesterday with myself and Mr. Isole, which I highly suggest you guys tune out that episode. Sas, I mean, do you see, like we're talking about today with Brian Seltzer, we're talking about CNN. Do you see CNN looking at this termination with Brian Seltzer on a positive level or a negative level? Do you think this is going to improve the show and they're going to go to another format? Like, what do you think?
Well, I think. Well, first of all, if CNN wants to correct themselves, they also have to fire Dom Lemon as well and Brian Seltzer. So they're almost. Well,
they fired Seltzer. Seltzer doesn't work for the network at all. But you were right about Lemon. They got to get rid of Don Lemon because he's an extremist leftist. Yeah,
you get those 2 extremists, then you can finally make. I feel like that they're not hit rock bottom yet. Brian Seltzer firing him was one step of saying, "Oh, okay." It's for example, an alcoholic. Okay, oh, the first thing that they have to realize is they have a problem. CNN realized they had a problem. All right, the problem was with Brian Seltzer. So what do you do with the problem? You throw out the booze and you throw out the Twinkies and you say, "Go fetch Seltzer," and then you make Seltzer like go after the Twinkies. Then you lock the doors and you throw his boxes out the window. And then that's the one problem of realizing you have a problem. And now they got rid of the problem. And so now they have to work and rebrand themselves as fair and moderate. So
that may work for AA and, other programs, that are usually linked towards a spirituality concept. But I mean, I don't know. Do you think it would work towards, saying, hey, we had a problem with Seltzer. It's either fire him, try to improve our ratings, try to be a better network for the American people, or still be the same extreme leftist of a network,
Well, who else are they going to replace for Seltzer, though? I mean, Seltzer was as extreme as you can get. Besides,
he's been with the show for 9 years. I'm told he's been with the show for 9 years, and canceling somebody after 9 seasons, that's saying a lot as a network. That hopefully they want to move in the right direction.
I didn't think about that. Or what about this theory? Okay, what if that they're actually hiring? Okay, here's a weird oddball. All right. So, for instance, they fire Brian.
Hey, guys. If you're looking for a steak, I know it's hard to find steak, right? A lot of restaurants that just overcooked, undercooked, just not to your taste buds, right? You want that juicy steak. Look no further than Omaha Steak. I love them, guys. Love them. If I didn't love them, why wouldn't I be promoting them on the podcast today? Go over to Omaha Steaks, okay? They are phenomenal, guys. The juiciest steak you'll ever taste in your life, okay? A lot of people are like, well, how does it get delivered to your house? You know, with gnats and bugs going to get into it. And no. It's not, you don't have to worry about all that. It is in a sealed, perishable bag delivered to your house. So you don't have to worry about the gnats and the bugs get into it. It's fresh from the time they ship it from their distribution center to the time it arrives at your house. The juiciest steak you'll ever have in your life, guys. Check them out today. Omaha Steaks. Love them. They're phenomenal.
Unfiltered.
Go take some time off. Go be with your family. Maybe you just need a little, a TO, a timeout. Maybe you just need to have a reset in life. Hopefully that's the cause. Like, listen, guys, I know I'm making a goof with Brian Seltzer on the show today. And obviously, if those who follow me on social media, you've seen a picture I posted on Instagram and Facebook earlier today with, Brian Stelter holding a cardboard sign, in front of the CNN building in Atlanta, saying, help, any money is greatly appreciated. I know it's a goof. I know it's a joke. But listen, when it comes down to it, Sauce, this is a human being. Right. Yes, he's highly criticized across all networks. Fox had said some things about Brian Stelter. Even Newsmax had made some jokes about him, with his insanely, creepy looking smile that he's known for, but, hopefully this termination, or hopefully, like you mentioned, Sauce, maybe he's on a temporary leave of absence. Maybe the LOA, the leave of absence, will basically guide Stelter in a better path as an individual. You know what I mean?
But I don't think that's okay. Well, the other thing is, okay, if you are okay, this LOA that that I'm thinking that he's on, I think it's more of a PR move as well from CNN. Because okay, we gotta get rid of some extremists. Look at what happened. They got rid of Chris Cuomo. They got rid of they officially got Brian Seltzer. They got rid of their CEO. Now what else? Because they're finally realizing, okay, well, we have to save this network somehow. So let's make temporary cuts and then let's bring them back all on. For instance, the other day, while they fired Brian Seltzer, okay, CNN had a closed door meeting with Chris Cuomo because they were thinking about bringing him back on.
Well, do you know why they got rid of Cuomo, though, right?
Yeah, well, his allegations, sexual allegations.
His brother. I mean, yeah, and then the ties with his brother. The former, governor of New York. Yeah, of course. I mean, the Cuomo family, they got a lot of skeletons in the closet, Sauce.
Look, so does Seltzer, I bet.
Oh, I'm sure.
Potato head.
I mean, with that creepy laugh, you would think, right? I mean, you ever see the way he laughs on television? I mean, he shows his entire grill, his front teeth and his bottom teeth, It's like, come on, man. If you're going to smile, think of a better, gesture or smile to, present on national television. That's just creepy. I mean, imagine a 5 or 7-year-old child like, mommy, running across the, the hallway, getting away from the TV screen.
Yeah. Or like if you're watching at the airport and the last thing you see is this cringy smile, so that's all you're focused on is when you fly out. You're like, oh man, that's that guy. Oh, that's a creepy guy smile. Okay, well, my flight's pretty much ruined.
Nightmares for the rest of the week, of course. But I said nightmares for the rest of the week, of course.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I seen a bit that came out across what the hell was it?
Breitbart?
No, not Breitbart. They're a tremendous newspaper and media company. But I seen an article come out of Newsmax, believe it or not, and those are the two media groups I tend to follow. Newsmax or Breitbart. I can't take Fox serious anymore. I sure as hell don't take CNN serious. I think the last time I actually watched CNN throughout its entire broadcast was probably like in the early 90s, but they were a different company then. They weren't like so far left that they are now. So, I mean, those are the only networks that I really take serious is Newsmax and Breitbart. Newsmax came out with an article the other day where Newsmax was saying that, the ratings are so bad for CNN. Right, they're in desperate times right now, Sauce. They tried this crap like not too long ago. I think it only lasted for like 2 or 3 months. This CNN Plus.
Oh
crap.
yeah, I heard about that. Yeah, that CNN Plus. Okay, so let me tell you about the CNN Plus. All right, so
yeah, you're fired up on this. I know you are. Go ahead.
Yeah. Okay, so I kept up with CNN Plus. Okay, I heard about it. I'm like, oh, okay. So what they're trying to do at CNN Plus is that they try to copy the Facebook playbook. Because Fox News has this app called Fox Nation, and it has so they try to play that Fox Nation stuff, and it was funny because they gave Chris Wallace a $5 million deal to be a feature on this CNN Plus. So then Chris Wallace then didn't have a feature on Fox Nation, so then he departed. Along with the $5 million deal, they gave him a $75 million deal contract to go and report as being one of the primetime CNN hosts. So what happened was I then looked into CNN Plus, and yes, I did have CNN Plus. I am very sad to say this. But then
why did you have that, Sauce? Why did you subscribe to that? I have to ask.
Well, the reason why, because I want to see if it was fair and balanced, like they said it was going to be.
Oh, I thought there might have been like an offer or something for like a month's supply of free coffee at Starbucks.
Well, they did say a month supply. They did say the first month was free, and then afterwards, then you can cancel at any time. So I took that offer. So I said, "Oh, cancel the first month." Well, I watched a couple of the shows, and about the first 5 minutes, I'm like, I fell asleep because what happened was Chris Wallace, he went on there and just. It pretty much ended up if you had Chris Wallace, which I watched, and he had so much hatred against President Trump. He talked about the debate and was like how he feared for his life. And then you also had, a special feature with Mrs. Peppermint Patty during that time, which was the press secretary Pulaski or whatever her name was. And then they gave her, and then not only that, but they gave a feature. Literally a show about Liz Cheney and how she's America's hero and how she's an Abraham Lincoln, but in a woman form, and that she's a next hero.
Yeah, I've seen that. Yeah, hold that thought. You mentioned Peppermint Patty. Rumored to be that, and these are sources, folks. So it might be true or it might not be. Also known as a rumor. Yeah, I was just about to say that. It's rumored that Peppermint Patty is going to be the replacement of Brian Seltzer.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's what you talk about. That's even worse than Brian Seltzer himself because she at least.
You're probably hearing this for the first time, folks. I don't even think any news or media outlet is reporting on this, but I've heard, from the grapevine that that Peppermint Patty there, Jen Psaki, will be replacing Brian Seltzer.
Yeah,
as the new anchor of that show. Yeah.
What do you think? Do you think that I was going to actually ask you about this, so you beat me to it. What do you think about do you think that will help the ratings, or do you think it'll just hurt? And then do you think she'll improve it, or do you think that she'll just still be the same?
Well, you got to look at her performance level when she was press secretary in the Biden administration. You got to look at that, man. Like you got to see how the audience felt. When people are like, "Oh, Michael, what is Michael talking about?" Audience. The audience, the viewers that are watching the press briefings when Jen Psaki spoke. You got to see the ratings that came through that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think it's only gonna do more damage. Now, if Kellyanne Conway, if she were to go on, you know what they need? They need Kellyanne Conway to say.
She won't go to a liberal network.
No.
She has a spot on Fox's The View. She's constantly on The View. I noticed that she made an appearance not too long ago on The View. What am I saying? Oh, and The Five. Excuse me. Let me retract that, folks. She had an appearance first on The Five with Judge Jeanine Pirro and the others. She also made an appearance on The View. Okay, so she's I don't think she's going to want an anchor position, Sauce. I think Kellyanne Conway just wants to be that appearance type of person. You know what I mean? Make a couple appearances, come on podcast, talk shows. I think that's what she wants.
Huh? I didn't think of that. Well, I don't know. I just think.
I also think, hold that thought. I also think that that Kellyanne Conway is saving herself as a role for possibly a future whether it's a cabinet member or some type of staff member again under the Trump administration. Because let's not count our roosters and chickens yet, folks. I mean, everybody thinks like the latest gossip that's coming out of the Mar-a-Lago raid, which is on newspapers all over the place. I mean, it's on all of our 25 newspapers here in the state of Florida. I just seen it on the Palm Beach Post, and I also read the Orlando Journal. And on the Orlando Journal and the Palm Beach Post, it shows that Kellyanne Conway could have a potential role in the future, position in the Trump administration, which is obvious. I mean, we're going to see that. She played a huge factor, man. You talk about Kellyanne Conway, and I'm sorry, I'm kind of, taking the floor here, Sas. I'll give you a minute to explain that and recap, if you'd like. With Kellyanne Conway, she was a woman, one of the very first women in the Trump administration that played an important role. She was considered to have a huge influence on that administration. So I mean, if a woman that respected in Washington then within those 4 years, do you think a woman that respected and that admired would want to go to a liberal network and just just that's like a slap in the face to the American people, don't you think?
Yeah. Yeah, when you do think about it, why would you ruin a reputation? Why would you ruin a reputation of being a first female press secretary of a wonderful president? I think that's why she became so well known, and that's why so many people liked her. Is that right?
Yeah, it is right because she played a role model against both women and young women. A lot of young women, especially in their early 20s and pre-adolescent stages of life, they looked at Kellyanne Conway as an important role model. I mean, she spoke the truth. Yes, she was a little rough around the edges. She did resemble that female version of Donald Trump, but I think that's what we need, though. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. We don't need the press secretary we have now who won't answer Peter Ducey's question, who's not transparent, who's probably got.
That woman, man, is just another Jen Psaki 2.0. I mean, that's all it is,
Yeah. And speaking of that, that press secretary right now, did you know that she's married to one of the CNN anchors that does the prime time?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that they've been to court for domestic abuse, and that she actually abuses the other woman.
I know the corruption and the criminal activity is coming out day by day with this Biden administration. I laugh when I hear it because it's like we had to hear this garbage, folks, for like the last 4 or 5 years when Trump was in office, where they were like, they're going to build back better. They're going to be more, they're going to be more of for the people. They're going to show more integrity, more everything. It's going to be a different type of an administration, but we're seeing more criminal activity coming out of this Biden administration than ever before.
I should also clarify to your listeners. Okay. The criminal activity that we talked about for the past 4 years that CNN just gnawed at and just drooled all over, and Brian Seltzer thought it was like Twinkies on steroids. Those are evidence that the media made up, first of all, and that the politicians took that and ran. But then the actual criminal activity, such as Hunter Biden's laptops and what Biden has done to women and stuff, that is all actual factual, and that is actually real evidence, and that's got real stains to the story, aka you probably know what your viewers mean by that, But you notice is that the media doesn't want to cover that the media doesn't want to cover what's really going on behind the Biden administration. And Brian Seltzer did a fantastic job with that, and that he had so much hatred for President Trump, and that's why I'm kind of glad that he's gone, because all he did was that he despised him. And it gets really old when people like you hear that same old story. Okay, well, can you report something different instead of just Trump, and how bad of a boogeyman he is? No, that gets old.
It does get old. I mean, I think that's why their ratings are dropping left and right. I mean, the
It's
last time
all
I
opinion
checked,
based. It's all their
yeah.
opinions. It's not actual. It's not actual facts. And so it was interesting because he was
Savage Unfiltered.
never reported any facts. All it was opinion based, and that's what it should be. CNN opinions.
So what do you think is next for Brian Stelter? I know we talked about it in the middle of this episode, but like, where do you think Brian Stelter is going to go?
The
Do you
next.
think he has a network lined up, or?
I think he's gonna be in the next Pillsbury Doughboy commercial.
Yeah, I thought so too, but I also think that he might get involved with podcasting. I see a podcast for him. I know that sounds kind of like, hey, podcasting. That's kind of
scary, isn't it?
interesting. Yeah, I could see a podcast being formed under Brian Stelter, but I
That's
mean,
scary, isn't it?
it's scary, but he's really not going to have a base. He's not. If he does develop a podcast, he the only base pretty much will be, obviously the liberal base, the
Antifa.
extreme leftists. Yeah. That's the type of people that's going to be following him. When you have a podcast, man, you want to. You want to be, you want to develop a base, in my own personal opinion as a podcaster, and probably Sas can relate, you want to develop a base that can connect to just about everybody, whether it's a liberal, a leftist, a Marxist, a freaking conservative, a Republican, anybody for that matter. That's where you want to driven your base, like if to be honest with you, Sas, like when I have people in the show, and you've been on a couple of them, when I've had some extreme leftists on my show, I've had extreme leftists on my show. I won't tell them names because I don't want to piss them off, and they go back to their houses and have their, like Sas says, their Twinkies or their ho-hos or something. Like I don't want to get them upset. But I love to interview the leftist, Sas. I love to interview that extremist because I love to hear their thoughts and their views. Because a lot of conservative, Sas, they think that we paint the liberals on a bad note. We put them on a canvas on a bad note. No, we don't do that, Sas.
No.
They do it for themselves every single day.
Yeah, and I also can attest to this too. So as a podcaster myself, I think it's also important to like be transparent and be open, because that's another bad. I've noticed that as well. That's another bad rap, as podcasters say. That first guest you have, the first conservative guest you have, they're, oh, you're a conservative, you're a right wing podcaster and stuff. No, I go on podcasts myself. I go on liberal podcasts. I go on your podcast. I do my own podcast. I invite I invite guests myself that have think differently. That's called being a fair, transparent podcaster, and that's what grows your base, and that's what allows people like that's what attracts you, and that's why like you and I are both flourishing like there's no tomorrow.
Yeah. Well, people see that. People see your message. They see your view. Like obviously, if you have the same wishy-wash type person on your show, you're really not going to go anywhere. If you have the constant same base, like I'm going to say this, ladies and gentlemen, I am a conservative podcast host. I believe in conservatism. I believe it is the only principle for this nation to literally preserve itself, flourish, and to go in the future. I truly believe that. That's my personal opinion. So that's what's great about this country. We can live in a nation where it's opinion based. Now, you may not agree with my opinion. That's okay. But I agree with my opinion because that's who I am. That's what's great about this, Sas. We can agree or we can disagree. We can argue to the point where we're literally screaming at each other. But where does that go? You know what I mean?
Yeah, it goes nowhere. Or we can also like, or if our ratings like drop and stuff, and we can reach out to certain people as many times as we can to just get on their show. You probably know who I'm talking about, right?
Yeah. Those are called rating sharks. Those guys, they just they'll just bring anybody on their damn show just to get a freaking rating. Just to get a viewpoint. And you see that with the mainstream media. They bring these people on the show just to get a rating.
Yeah. Well, or for instance, They'll. So if you look at Mike Pence, okay, perfect example.
Oh God, yeah.
He's been. What is your thoughts on him making? What is your thought? Because did you know that he was going to be on Brian Seltzer? They were going to do like an hour episode, a special episode with Brian Seltzer and Mike Pence together. What is your
Who's
thoughts?
I?
They were going to do
Who's
it,
I?
but then it fell through because he got fired. What do you think about that?
Yeah, yeah. First of all, yeah, Stas is probably Mike is steaming, and I can hear him coming in as I'm closing up this statement here. You know. First of all, I'd like to know, Stas, whose idea was that? Was that Pence himself going on that, or was it Stelzer?
That was both of their ideas.
That Mike Pence had an influence on that?
Yes, because Mike
Wow.
Pence the only reason why is because Mike Pence, like you also notice, okay, because you can see that he wants to be that, because according to Mike Pence, if he's going to run for president, if he's going to be a president, he has to be open and transparent and has to work with both sides. So that's why he and Brian Seltzer were talking and said, would this be a great opportunity for us to bridge together, and stating that as a Republican, I can work with the far extremists.
Well, this is the same guy, Sas. If you could retract to this statement, this is the same guy. This is the same guy, this Stelzer guy, that put a freaking headline out, guys. If you can remember clearly, that Donald Trump had a huge involvement with trying to murder Mike Pence. Did everybody remember that? This is the same
yes.
lunatic, the lunatic that said on his show that he believed that Donald Trump had an involvement in trying to murder Mike Pence because of of him trying to overturn the general election in 2020, and that's what led to January 6th. This is the type of crap that you hear. Yeah. So, to going back to your question, Sash, your statement that you made here on the show, I think that's maybe one of the reasons why Stelzer wanted and CNN wanted Mike Pence to go on for that session.
Yeah,
they wanted to question that. They wanted to dig deep on if that statement was true, because that's crazy. I mean, Donald Trump's been, on headlines for like the last 40 plus years, 50 years. I don't think, as smart and intelligent as Donald Trump is, I don't think he would make that statement. That's an extreme statement, man.
I think it was done by I think it was done by, because I've noticed this, okay? The media companies don't want to report on what's really going on in America. And because they think that what's going on, people are going to be very upset. So what they do is that they focus on this one individual that saved America, that made America great again, literally, and they can't get off of him because they want ratings and they want anything. So I think that whole Mike Pence, President Trump was going to murder Mike Pence and stuff, I think that was done by Mike Pence's PR movement people to get Mike Pence as ratings, and so he can get speaking engagements. And so one way of doing it is by getting on Brian Seltzer to talk about that subject.
That's another way of looking at it, because if you've been paying attention to the political playfield there, Pence has been out of the playbook for quite some time, man. Since Biden has taken office, we haven't seen. Yeah, well, we haven't seen a lot of Pence making public appearances at all.
No.
I mean, usually, and this is what usually happens, folks, when a president steps down in office, when the vice president steps down in office, any public official steps down in public office, right? Whether it's on a state or a federal level, usually things happen. Books get published, podcast appearances, talk show appearances, public appearances, making brief, little briefings and stuff like that. That's what usually happens. We haven't seen that from Mike Pence. Now, did Mike Pence just take his backpack and his luggage and go back to Indiana? I mean, that's basically what happened. I mean,
or did he burn his bridge with America and think, man, I messed up? This is one of my biggest failures. I'm not.
Well, a lot of people look at that. I don't think it's a mess up. I think a lot of people were disappointed in Pence because they wanted Pence to do the right thing.
And he
You
did
had
it.
a lot of, yeah, you're right, Tus, that he had a lot of he had a lot of backlash with the American people. You're looking at not just, you're looking at the most precious, most important election in anybody's lifetime, the general presidential election. That is important. Now, if you see foul play as an elected official, such as Mike Pence, he had that opportunity to dig deep into the Department of Justice, into the other agencies there in government, and say, you know what? I think there was foul play. I think there was foul play in the mail-in ballots. I think
Yeah.
this. I think that. But what did he do? Like a politician, he's a career politician. That's what set him apart from Trump. He thought about his career as a future politician. Like, where am I going to go now? Mr. Trump is not president anymore. I'm not vice president. What happens to me, Mike Pence? That's where Mike Pence was going.
Yeah. And it completely fell face flat. And to me, and it was interesting because I was one of the main scrutinizers, and I scrutinized him. And I'm like, because here's why I scrutinized him so much. Okay. Not only did he call himself a Christian, but he said, hey, I'm a man of God. I am a man of integrity. He fell face flat on that as well. That's what ticked me off. And that's what got the Christian community very upset, because they're like, wait, the Bible tells us to be honest. If you see something, hold that person accountable, because God tells us to be accountable. God tells us to hold others accountable that are in government as well. So you're telling me that you're telling us to, like, you're a godly man and that you read the Bible daily, so you know what God's commandments are, but at the same time you do the opposite. So it's like you betrayed your relationship with God, and you also betrayed the Christian community. That's what ticked me off, and that's why I'm like, you know what, you want to call it fraud? Here, this man is a fraud.
Yeah, I mean, he's a Christian guy. I mean, but I think he's facing, two cards of the evil there. He's facing, like I said, I'll repeat it again, folks, for those who may have not understand that sentiment. Like, he's facing two cards of the evil, and he's also facing two cards of goodness. The evil is where, the ridiculing, the criticism from the general public and through Washington, where, if he were to look into the general election, if he were to look into the voting process, there could be a lot of, oh, well, he's just another Trump guy, and he's just trying to pretty much save the Republican Party. He's not transparent. He's not doing it in a partisan way. He's not doing it that. That's the evil. Now, the goodness part of it would be, like we're saying right now, Michael Pence, do the right thing for the American people. Step up as a vice president and say, hey, listen, there may have been fraud in Atlanta. There may have been fraud in Wisconsin. There may have been fraud in Pennsylvania. Look at these key battleground states and see where the fraud came through. And that's where he should have went. Stop thinking more of yourself and start thinking as for what's in the best interest of the American people. He's a Christian, he's a man of God, but he also has to take the consideration of what's best for our country. And he should have done that, and he didn't do that. So, yeah.
And he failed. And the cool thing, well, not the cool thing is, but even if I, for instance, in my shoes as being a public figure now, I've come out, and if I mess up and all that, if I know something's wrong, I hold myself accountable. And I just write a press release or do a special episode stating, hey, here's what happened. From the bottom of my heart, I'm really sorry. I should have done the right thing. Instead of saying, oh, whoops, well, I'll just go along with it. And then it tarnishes your reputation. And then it's a lot harder for you to, it's a lot harder for other people to say, are you really accountable, or integrity?
Well, yeah, Sauce. I mean, your actions do play a big part of your decisions. Of course, absolutely. Not only as a public figure, but as a regular citizen of this country. Everyone's actions play a big part of their decisions. Whatever decision they make, They should be accountable for it. Absolutely. It doesn't matter if you're a public figure, a freaking Hollywood actress or actor, or a comedian, or going down to a politician for that fact. Everyone's actions should be accountable, without a doubt. Without a doubt. You mentioned just before here. We're going to close it up here. You mentioned before where, with the whole. What the hell? The media, right? Now going into this Mar-a-Lago crap, right? Like, oh, well, who is the true informant that tipped off the FBI to initiate that raid? It had to be a family member, because the family member would only know where the leather briefcase was that pertained all those secret documents of Trump. They had to know. It has to be a family informant. Do you see the headline where they're going at, Sauce? They want the drama, man. They really do.
Do you think it was Kushner?
I see. You know what? I mean, like I said to Jimmy, are you in a time machine? Are you going through it? Yeah. Listen. Yeah. I read that statement coming out of the Palm Beach Post here in Florida. They're saying that Kushner could have been the disgruntled family member, because they're using that word, like disgruntled family member. Maybe Trump kind of rubbed Kushner the wrong way, or vice versa. I think it could have been Kushner. I really think it could have been. Maybe Trump. Mr. Trump promised Kushner, some things after his presidency. Like, I'm going to buy you a new BMW, son. Because it's his daughter's husband. That nice BMW, or I'm going to get you that nice beach house that you always wanted. So, like little shit like that, Sauce, that could play. That's family turmoil. That could set the bells and alarms off for Kushner to tip off, something as severe to the FBI. Absolutely.
Isn't that scary to think about?
Yeah. Extremely, extremely. And not only can you imagine if that was true? Can you imagine what that would do for the entire Trump family? Do you know? Going to his wife, Ivanka. Ivana's the mother. Excuse me, Ivanka. Going to his wife, Ivanka, and then having Ivanka finding out. Did you rat my dad out? You son of a bitch. Can you imagine the turmoil coming out at the family table?
Yeah. Yeah.
This is stuff you would see at like a Thanksgiving dinner or something, or family Christmas dinner, where you're at the table, and then the wife or the somebody in the family, you son of a bitch, you ratted out my father.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All righty. Well, I gotta get ready for another interview. So
yeah, who do you have on your show? You're getting amazing people. We just heard Sauce had the representative on his show the other day, and then he had another state leader. Like, who's on your show today, man?
So Adam Steen. We're working right now. He said he just landed with Mike Lindell. He ran against Robin Voss, and they're in that county in that district that Robin Voss won. He seemed like there was to be foul play in Racine County, and so now this is a developing story. So we're going to talk about the five people that are indicted of voter fraud, and the judge in Wisconsin, the appeal judge, dropped those those charges. And so now we're figuring out, because he lost by 20 votes.
20 votes, huh?
And they were thinking that it was tampered with, and that they did ballot harvesting at nursing homes.
Oh, my goodness.
So he's going to be on my podcast. And then we're going to do another episode next week. So it's a whole action-packed, and I'm going to be on the Kimberly Cloud Show on Monday. So if you're viewers...
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Kimberly Cloud.
Yeah,
I haven't heard from her in a long, long time. I'm definitely going to tune into that on the Kimberly Cloud Show. Yeah, it should be a rather interesting show. But like, what's going on with your state? There's a lot of fraud going on in your state, a lot of corruption. What's up with that, Sauce?
Oh boy, I don't really know. It's sad. Like, I have Wisconsin radio people reaching out to me to do interviews and stuff. I'm like, My goodness. And it's interesting because I want to make a correction, number one. All right. There was a nasty, anyone that lives in Wisconsin, okay, I want to make a correction because there was an article that was released yesterday about me. All right.
Yeah.
No, I'm not a Nazi, and no, I'm not a Joseph Stalin fan.
Yeah,
Number
you
one.
told me that yesterday. I wanted to know a little bit more. I just didn't have time because I was doing some work yesterday on some other projects. But
Yeah.
what's up with that? They're calling you a Nazi? Like you're not of German descent.
No.
Are these morons or something, Sauce? I mean, if you're a Nazi, you got to be like a first. Nazis are usually like German descent.
Yeah.
They're from Germany, or they show high levels of white supremacy.
Yes.
Like I don't. That's crazy.
And another thing is, I also want to say that my ministry is not showing extremism. It's not showing hatred, and so that's my podcast. It's not. I also want to clarify on that because my podcast was also mentioned inside of that.
Well, they probably got the certain guest that you had on.
What?
He was a little far fetched, Sauce.
Hey, no, he was huge in Wisconsin though. My viewership and stuff. I mean, not my viewership. Yeah, my viewership and my ratings and stuff is going like through the roof. And my whole thing is that when people are growing and they're jealous, they're going to do everything and anything to attack it. And so one way you do it is you attack the individual's character, and then you also and then you also attack.
Well, you know what I mean by that, Sauce. I mean with I'll say to Tommy Nation. I mean I said this to you off the air, man. And I hope you don't mind me saying this on the air. I think it was a little disrespect, as a Christian podcast, with the language. That's what I was going at.
Yeah, because notice other guests don't use the foul language, and
they don't use the foul language. I mean, I don't want to sound like a hypocrite, folks. Yes, I use the language on my show, but I'm an entirely different show. I said this to Sauce off the air, and I'll say it on the air. When you're on another show, you have to respect the guidelines. You have to respect their format. Sauce is a Christian-based podcast. Remember, God loves you, and I'll meet you at the finish line. It's a Christian-based podcast, folks. When you're on a podcast like that, that's a Christian-based, you got to respect the guidelines. You got to respect their format. And, this Tommy Nation, buddy, he was not respecting the format. And that's just my personal opinion.
Because the age group that I listen to is wide. It's all over. Like, it's all over age group.
And I mean, I didn't mean to get into this segment here with you, but I want to clarify, so my listeners and of course Sauce's listeners that may be tuning into this episode, which I have to say this is probably the longest Savage brief I ever done. I was only going to keep it 25 minutes, but me and Sauce got into a couple segments here towards the middle into the end that had to be addressed. But I mean, this sentiment here, Sauce, you have to respect the guidelines of somebody's format, and I don't think he was respecting your format. And yes, Mr. Tommy Nation, you have to respect the format, buddy. I'm sorry. I know I'm probably going to get attacked by his show, but I'm saying it like it is, man.
Because I don't go on your show, and I don't. Well, and here's another thing I also have to realize. I don't. If you okay, so I'm not against swearing. But if you're on a Christian podcast and you swear on it, you have like my listeners that are like might be dealing with problems, and if you swear, it might come off as they're being mad, And so I understand, and it's not. I don't do any political commentary. I allow individuals to grow stronger in their faith. So if you swear up a storm, it makes you look bad, and then it's like, oh well, why listen to his podcast when he's got like foul language on there? And it says in the Bible, "Do not use the Lord's name in vain."
Yeah,
you know what I mean by that, right?
Yeah, that's where I was going at here. In closing here, Sauce, I know you got to get going, and I don't want to take too much of your time.
No, you're good.
I want to respect you because you're a good guy, and and you're fighting for a good cause on a spiritual, Christian, and also a political level. But there's a verse here, or maybe a paraphrase I want to use that I heard from somebody quite recently. And folks, I'm going to get a little spiritual here, so I want to warn you those who are maybe not spiritual. I hope I don't offend you. Or if you are spiritual, I hope I don't offend you too, because it goes both ways. There's a phrase here, which Sasha just mentioned. Please, let's show a little bit more passion for those that may be facing turmoil or maybe facing sadness or anything a little bit tricky in their life, because this is the day that that it can all fall down for them. They can collapse in a moment of time with a snap of a finger. So try to be a little nice to people, because they are probably facing the most challenging day in their entire lives. And I want to leave it at that. Like I heard that just actually 2-3 days ago from a gentleman that is facing extreme moments in his life right now, where he doesn't know how tomorrow will bring him. And and I actually said a prayer for him, and I wished him the best of luck. Where he literally went from having everything in the world to literally hitting rock bottom. And now that gentleman is homeless, folks. And and it's sad, where some people, Sauce, they have everything in the world, and with just a snap of a finger or a bad decision, it creates a tremendous life altering challenge. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So. But I'm going to close it out here, Sauce. Thank you for coming on. Thank you for working with the time frame with me. I had to push it back a little bit, folks. Sauce and I were supposed to do this recording this morning first at 7:30. I had to push it to 2 o'clock, and then I was literally reaching out to Sauce and say, "Hey, I got some time. Let's shoot for like around like a little after 11:30, 11. What was it? Almost 10:30, excuse me." And Sauce was very flexible. So I want to thank you, Sauce, for coming on. And I want to wish you the best of luck with that interview, that session that you're having. It's this afternoon, right?
Well, he's landed, so I'm giving him plenty of time because he's with Mike Lindell, so he's very busy. So it's like it's very flexible.
The Mike Pillow, the Buy Pillow guy, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Tell him I want to graph a copy of the pillow if you can get to him in time.
Alrighty.
All right, buddy.
Alrighty, guys. Hey, so hopefully you guys have a wonderful weekend, and remember, God loves you, and I'll meet you at the finish line. And you are welcome to find Unsavaged Filter on any of your podcasts in Amazon Music and Alexa. Just play, hey Alexa, play Unsavaged Unfiltered Savage. Or Savaged Unfiltered. She'll play
You got it right the first time. Yeah, you just tell Alexa, folks. I'll correct Sauce because I know he's got to get going. It's if you tell Alexa to play Savaged Unfiltered, it's going to play the most recent episode, which will be the episode prior to this that I had this morning. Yes.
And then also, if you have an Apple podcast or a Google podcast, all you have to say is, "Hey Google, play Remember God Loves You," and I'll meet at the finish line, and she'll play the first episode. She'll play the most current episode on the Google podcast.
Wow! Wow! That's a good milestone. We want to see you on Alexa. That's the next milestone, Sauce.
Yeah. Alrighty. Hey,
all right. Take it.